Okay, good morning, everybody. I can tell it's going to be interesting getting you all in here today. Where's Doug?
He's over here.
Oh, okay.
Are we singing?
We're singing. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living in the heart of Las Cruces. I'm Sarah Benson, and we're going to start with a couple of songs. If you'd like to come on in, find a seat, stand up if you'd like. Yeah, we'll just get going here with a little bit of love and joy and all that.
You are sacred love, sacred love is all that you are. You are sacred love, God, sacred love is all that you are. You are sacred love, sacred love is all that you are. You are sacred love, God, sacred love is all that you are. Show the way, God, show the way. I want to live in such a state of grace. Lead the way, God, lead the way. I want to live in such a holy place. Such a holy place. You are blessed peace, blessed peace is all that you are. You are blessed peace, God, blessed peace is all that you are. You are deepest joy, deepest joy is all that you are. You are deepest joy, God, deepest joy is all that you are. Show the way, God, show the way. I want to live in such a state of grace. Lead the way, God, lead the way. I want to live in such a holy place. Such a holy place. You are sacred love, sacred love is all that you are. You are sacred love, God, sacred love is all that you are. Sacred love is all that you are. Sacred love is all that you are. Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Listen to what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes a prayer. Our thoughts are prayers, the tools that we create with. Our thoughts are prayers that Spirit resonates with. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of mindfulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes a prayer. Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Listen to what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes and every thought becomes our prayer.
Good morning. How's that mic? Can everyone hear me in the back? Yes. Y'all good? Joy? Good. Good morning. Oh, it's good to see you. Such a great number of people, and the friends on Zoom and the people that will join us later on YouTube. I'm Judy Hunt, your practitioner for today. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living in the heart of Las Cruces, where our vision is a loving partnership for the good of all. Welcome to anyone visiting for the first time. There are packets at each door. They contain bookstore certificates, so check that out. Coupons and discounts. There we go. And also there's a form with an email to get on our email newsletter list, which is how I keep track of what everything's going on here, because there's a lot. Reverend Bonnie will lead a visioning after the service today, and it's visioning for next steps for our center and you, so, which is, of course, all one. So let her know after the service if you plan to stay for that. Another great way to connect and ground into this teaching is through Spiritual Circle. We have so much fun, it's like a circus. That's the truth. Jim Rogers and I facilitate it, and it is so rich. And I tell you, I've received the Science of Mind magazine for decades, and this is the best, deepest reading I've ever done in it. And if you haven't tossed January, which I hope you don't toss them, the article on page 91 this past month, I just thought nailed everything. So check it out. So that's at 11 o'clock on Zoom on Mondays. Please join us. And for anyone interested in celebrating the Lent season, Unity will be having special Friday night services, followed by a soup dinner, so that's well worth it. And that starts February 24th, and it goes to April 7th. Information will be in our newsletter. But a lot of people still like to do Lent and have that kind of long conversation. Oh, and we are having our next treasure sale on April 29th. But please start sorting your stuff, but hang on to it until April 2nd, because we just don't have enough room to keep it all. We are so rich in treasure. We believe in the power of prayer here and all centers for spiritual living, and we call it spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer. There are prayer requests in the back of every chair that's in front of you. Please fill it out, and they will be prayed over with you by the leaders of the 4 New Thought Centers here in Las Cruces and the practitioners. We do that every week, and we love praying with you. Similarly, there are gratitude cards, so if you'll let us know how Spirit's working in your life, we would love that. So we look at that and treasure that. Also, after church, if there's something that you would like a quick prayer treatment for, I'm available. I'll be hovering around here. So please make use of me. I love it when you do. It's interesting how whatever you bring, it's part of what I'm working on. So it's always good and it's always welcome. Now it is time for song, silence, and prayer.
I'm held in love, I'm held in peace. God is holding me with every breath, with every step.
I feel so blessed to be here with each of you and feeling the God in each of us. Just like the song says, in every breath, there is spirit. Take the time now to feel supported and blessed and loved by the Spirit that is flowing right now through you and everywhere in this room, on Zoom, and everywhere you go this week. There is love flowing for you. That is what we believe and know and trust, and that is what prospers our lives. And I'm so grateful for each of you, for Spirit, and for the blessings of this day. And so it is. Speaking of the science of mind, our reading today is from February 2nd, The Tao of George the Curious. The important thing is not to stop questioning. This is from Albert Einstein in a Life magazine article. The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existence. One cannot help but be in awe when he contemplates the mysteries of eternity, of life, of the marvelous structure of reality. And from Ernest in Living Without Fear, if we were to further inquire of our imagination what the ultimate purpose of evolution is, the most logical answer it could give would be that the purpose of life is to produce beings who can consciously cooperate with it. That is so cool. Many a child has grown up with the trials and tribulations of Curious George. I hope you can picture that monkey with the guy in the big yellow hat. He was always getting into trouble. For some, his adventures served as an admonition, warning us to be less curious, lest we, like George, get into trouble time after time. This, however, is not the ultimate lesson afforded us in the metaphysical exegesis of George. George invites us into greater levels of curiosity. It is in our commitment to seeking, finding, evolving that we find and can live our spiritual magnificence. George and his friend, the man in the yellow hat, are archetypes of balance, of yin and yang. They temper one another and offer lessons on living in harmony, offering forgiveness and having compassion. What made George curious? Was it not his desire to learn, to explore, and to understand not only the object of his curiosity, but himself as well in relation to the vast adventures he embarked on? The way of spirit is the way of ever-increasing expansiveness. And as such, there is no place for playing small. That is not our nature, no matter how much we try to conform to the paradigms handed down to us. George, the bodhisattva of curiosity, offers us a new path forward. He offers us the courage to take that class, go on that retreat, write that book, and more. Consider all the vast innovations born as a result of being curious, asking questions, and being willing to explore life. And our affirmation is, today I explore the depths of my being. I show up in the world as a bodhisattva of curiosity, and so it is.
Brilliant. Okay, we're going to do a song called It's in Every One of Us. It's by David Pomerantz, and I hear a lot of you guys know this one already, so please go ahead and sing along in the chorus.
It's in every one of us to be wise. Find your heart, open up both your eyes. We can all know It's in every one of us by and by.
It's in
Every one of us to be wise. Find your heart, open up both your eyes. We can all do everything without ever knowing why. It's in every one of us by and by.
It's in every one of us. I just remembered. It's like I've been sleeping for years. I'm not awake as I could be, but my seeing's better. I can see through the tears. I've been realizing that I bought the ticket and I'm watching only half of the show. But there is scenery and lights and a cast of thousands who all know what I know. And it's good that it's so. It's in
Every one of us to be wise. Find your heart, open up both your eyes. We can all know everything without ever knowing why. It's in every one of us by and by. It's in every one of us by and by.
Wow, that takes me back. We used to sing that every Sunday, just the chorus at the Albuquerque Center when I started in this back in 2001. So that's so fun to hear that. It was hard not to sign because I used to be the interpreter up there. So I signed it every Sunday. Feel free. And then I'll just tell you I'm signing Mary Had a Little Lamb. No. Anyway, good morning to everyone. I'm Rev Bonnie, the community spiritual leader here at the center in Las Cruces. And it's so good to see everyone as we move into the month of February. Hard to believe already, but here we are. And so thanks to a therapist that I had way back in the 1980s, I had acquired a saying that I've shared with you several times, and that was less judgment, more curiosity. And when I first heard that, I thought it kind of flew in the face of what I had been taught about curiosity. I'd always heard that curiosity kills the cat. You're nodding, so I think everybody else has probably heard that too. So how then was curiosity all of a sudden a good thing? She was encouraging me to have more curiosity, especially in my relationships, and less judgment. And this month, while we're focusing on the annual overarching theme of living out loud, we're looking at the idea of curiosity as a superpower. And so here I am going, well, how does curiosity move from killing a cat to reducing judgment to all of a sudden being a superpower? And what does that have to do with our spirituality? And why are we even talking about this? I'm curious. So let's begin, though, with the idea of less judgment. Why was it important to my therapist back then, and why do we hear so often that we want to be less judgmental? We want to have less judgment. And what happens when we reduce the levels of judgment that we have about other people in our lives? So I decided, as I always do, to look up the meaning of judgment, and I was surprised to find that they actually categorized it in two different ways. There's judgment that they called discriminating, and judgment that is evaluative. The discriminating kind is when we take all the different facts that we can possibly find, sort of weigh them all equally, and then make a decision. And we can sometimes say that person used their good judgment. So judgment can be seen as a good thing. The evaluative was described as having a lot of facts that we get, but then applying our personal preferences, values, and opinions to make it become an objective truth. And what they said about this objective truth is that this type of judgment is ineffective because others may view the same situation differently, whether in a marginally different way or a completely different way. So as I was thinking about it, I realized that our admonishment to be non-judgmental, to judge not, I think is referring to that idea of evaluative judgment, where instead of being open to other ideas and more than just what we already have in our little sphere, we shut ourselves off based on our own opinions and views that we've already created. And so if you think about the way you approach newness in your life, the way you approach having something different show up, do you overlay your own opinions, your experiences from the past, and have no room for something new, or are you open to new ideas, new things, new ways of approaching? And I'm referring mostly, when I'm talking about this or thinking about this, to different cultures, different groups of people, different ways of expressing in the world. What is the first thing that pops into your mind when you see something? I went to a birthday party where different generations of people showed up, and boy, they were dressed differently than I was used to. And they had things in their skin that I wasn't used to seeing. So what is the first thing that pops into your mind when you see something different? Is it, ooh, that's weird, how uncivilized, or just plain no? And what happens when those thoughts come into our mind? How do we treat those people that we're having those thoughts about? What happens when we move into that space of judgment on that level? Ernest Holmes has a section in the Science of Mind text that's called Teachings from Jesus. And in there he says, "Judge not that ye not be judged. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged." And I'm sure you've all heard that on some level or another. Further on, he goes on to describe what that means as that life must return to us the manifestation of our motives, thoughts, and desires, whether these motives, thoughts, and desires are intended for ourselves or for others. So what we're putting out there, essentially, how we judge is going to be what's coming back to us in some way. Prior to that, he says, "Judge not according to appearances." And so as I'm thinking about judgment and why it is we're being told, "Judge ye not," why we shouldn't do this, is because when we do that, we are limiting ourselves to opening to a greater understanding or awareness of the person or people that we might be judging. And so how do we reduce that then? How can we move out of judgment? Well, curiosity is an amazing tool to help us do that. Back before everyone had a tattoo, which I don't yet, but back before we saw them on most people, I was told by someone, if you see someone with a tattoo, instead of judging, ask them the story behind it. Most tattoos have stories behind them, reasons why the person has chosen to put that tattoo on. So if you can get curious about the story, you're going to have a different approach than if you're just, I can't, I don't do needles, or whatever it is that is the judgment. So we look at what it is that we can get curious about in any given situation. And I think, like a lot of the things that we talk about that I've shared from here and that we read about, the curiosity and judgment can both serve us and be detrimental to us, depending on how it is that we use it. Is our judgment going to serve us by staying open to other opinions? Are we allowing curiosity to come in there? Or are we using it in a way that's blocking our ability to be open to new things? And so to me, that's what makes the difference. Ernest Holmes, again, I was looking for what he might have to say about curiosity. And I didn't find exactly that word in a lot of places, but this is what he said. These forms and personalities, propelled by the cosmic urge which brings them into being, have within them the impulse planted by the divine. We are surrounded by a spirit of living intelligence and eternal givingness, love, goodness, and power. There is a divine urge within us. And in this thing called you, he said, with a curiosity that you did not put in your own mind. So I believe that he saw that curiosity, that drive to understand and to know as part of that divine urge that moves in and through us. It is part of what causes us to wonder, to move forward, and to allow ourselves to evolve, to grow, to bring in new ideas. It is said of Ernest Holmes that when he was a teenager, they called him the eternal question mark. And apparently he took his questions not just at home or at school, but to the ministers of the churches he was going to, and asked all kinds of questions. And if you've ever been around a 3 or 4-year-old, you've heard all the questions that naturally come out, and we tend to squelch them in our frustration of having to answer so many questions out of them. But apparently Ernest Holmes continued his questioning on into his adulthood, and he continued to grow in the types of questions he was asking. What is God? Why am I here? How does spirit work? And as those questions were being contemplated, and as he was studying from all different types of teachings and spiritual texts, he came up with what we today call religious science, or the science of mind. And so we could say that curiosity is what has helped us to get to know ourselves better, and it's what helps us to understand the world around us. And it is part of that divine urge within us that helps us to evolve and move forward. Ernest Holmes also said, our time should be devoted to knowing the truth that sets humanity free from ignorance. So how do we gain that awareness? How do we start to know the truth that can set us free from ignorance? Well, usually it's through asking questions. It's about getting curious. It's about wanting to know more. So why is it then that when we grew up, we heard curiosity kills the cat? Why was it considered a bad thing or something we wanted to be leery of? And so as I looked up the meaning of curiosity and even that phrase, it was described this way. Curiosity is an eager desire to learn, and often to learn what does not concern us. And I went, oh, okay, so that's where it kills the cat. Curiosity, when we put our nose, they talk about putting your nose in somebody else's business. When we're sticking our nose somewhere that it doesn't belong, that's when it can create issues in our lives or kill the cat. And yet, how do we determine when our curiosity is something that's going to serve us or when it's going to essentially kill the cat, not serve us? Because my therapist was suggesting that more curiosity in my relationships would help my relationships. So that meant getting curious about the people in my life, wanting to know more about them, what made them tick, why they did what they did, and moving from curiosity instead of reacting straight out of judgment. And so I was thinking more and more about how does this work? And I remembered I shared this book with you quite a while back. It is See No Stranger by Valerie Carr. And in here, she presents curiosity, or what she also called wonder, as a way to repair race relations, as a way for us to become curious about each other so that we could develop an understanding and appreciation for people. Ernest Holmes said, love is the grandest healing and drawing power on earth. And so I want to share with you what Valerie Carr says about love. She said, love is a form of sweet labor, fierce, bloody, imperfect, and life-giving. A choice we make over and over. Love is a choice. Love can be taught, modeled, and practiced. It engages our emotions. Joy is the gift of love. Grief is the price of love. Anger protects that which is loved. And when we think we have reached our limit, wonder is the act that returns us to love. And again, I think of wonder and curiosity as being very similar. And so she's talking about how it is when she got into a space of having extreme judgment about another group or a set of people or someone that was causing her pain in her life, when she remembered to move into wonder, into curiosity, it would shift things. In fact, further on, she says this about her marriage. The day I stop wondering about my husband is the day our marriage starts to die a little. But when I nurture my curiosity, I feel our relationship revive and flourish. And so curiosity and wonder and how it can serve us. Again, thinking about a lot of the different things that we do, we can say that it's the intent behind it that's really important. If we have a strong desire to know or learn something, what is our intent, our reason for wanting to know? Do we want to know that information because we want to add to the gossip chain? Do we want to somehow maybe even potentially hurt someone? Or could what we are sharing possibly hurt someone? Or are we really curious because we're trying to prove ourselves right? And so we already have our opinions, we have that judgment already in place, so we're just trying to find out more so we maybe can even make fun of what it is we're learning. I imagine I'm not the only one that can relate to some of those feelings and ways of being in the world. Or, because that to me is the cat that gets killed. It's the relationship. It's the connection between us. That information is being used to separate us from others as opposed to connect us. So we could have the intent for that, or we can be open to really learning something. And when we're open to really learning something, we're open to changing our opinion. We're open to shifting into love in that situation. Again, I found out of Valerie Carr's book, she quoted James Baldwin, and this is the quote. I think the inability to love is the central problem, because that inability masks a certain terror, and that terror is the terror of being touched. And if you can't be touched, you can't be changed. And if you can't be changed, you can't be alive. Yeah. So in that sense, when curiosity is a genuine desire to learn, it's accompanied with that desire to love and to connect and to be open to being touched. And I think they're referring to an emotional being touched. That ability to go, wow, okay. And at that point, we are open to change, open to changing what we might have thought prior. And that's when our judgments decrease. And that's when I think curiosity becomes a superpower. You've probably heard these words of Rumi. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I will meet you there. Judgment drops us into right doing and wrongdoing. We're looking for what's right and what's wrong. Curiosity moves us into that field beyond, where we can meet and connect with other people. I think most of us have heard it said, and most of us would probably say, when asked, what do we really want in life? Most people say they want to experience world peace. Isn't that what we hear a lot? That people want world peace. The general citizens, maybe not the top dogs, but most people want to experience world peace. And yet, I think it is fear and judgment and an unwillingness to let new information touch us and allow that change that prevents world peace from being realized. So how can we begin to exercise this superpower in order to bring about world peace? How can we start to see curiosity in that light as a superpower? Well, let's try something. For anyone that's willing, just allow yourselves to bring to mind a situation or a person in your life who you might call a challenge, maybe someone who bothers you on some level, or a situation that you find upsetting, that's been someplace where you just haven't felt like you're totally living the way you would like to in that situation or with that person. And as you picture that, See if you can open your mind to wonder and curiosity. What questions pop into mind that you could ask about that person or that situation? Just seeing that in your mind's eye. Questions like, what happened in their life or lives to create this behavior? Where did this behavior begin? How many generations has this way of thinking been passed through? How did it start and why? And how might what they're doing or saying serve them, and how might it serve me? And as you think about those questions, how you can expand into a more curiosity way of being in this situation, consider this sentence that Valerie Carr uses in her book and in her life, in her spiritual practice of wonder and curiosity. She reminds herself, "You are a part of me I do not yet know." And you could even say, "They are a part of me that I do not yet know." So the question, the curiosity could be, how can I get to know you better? What do I need to know to aid in the healing and connection that I would like to see between us? And how is it that Valerie Carr can say there's a part of you that I don't yet know, that is a part of me? And Ernest Holmes, in his teaching, and in a lot of places, we know that this teaching of oneness is part of a lot of the different traditions. He said, all emerge from the one whose being is ever present and whose life, robed in numerous forms, is manifest throughout all creation. Creation is the logical result of the outpush of life into self-expression. It is the coming forth of spirit into manifestation. The one encompasses and flows through all, spilling itself into numberless forms and personalities. These forms and personalities, propelled by the cosmic urge which brings them into being, have within themselves an impulse planted by the divine. And since the divine is limitless and perfect, it must and ultimately will bring all creation into a state of perfect manifestation. Now, Valerie Carr's tradition is being a Sikh. She's a Sikh. And yet, here we are in so many different traditions, aware of the fact that we are one with all those that are around us. And so when you're getting curious about what another person is doing, you can look at it as getting curious to know yourself more deeply. And don't you want to get to know yourself more deeply? Yeah, maybe. So again, you can consider this person in your life or this situation and imagine saying to them, you are a part of me I do not yet know, and opening to getting to know them better. Now, there might be situations where you think you know this person really well. They might be an ex, somebody you've lived with a lot of years, and you think, well, I know that person. It's not somebody that I don't already know. So again, when you're doing that, though, we're taking our opinions and our past experiences and applying them to the current situation. So can you imagine, if that's the case, suspending that judgment and saying, through curiosity, I am open to learning more about the part of me in you I do not yet know. You see where I went with that? Just again, imagining that there's still more, something else there that we can understand on a deeper level. And so just sort of take a breath, because that might have taken you to some places that aren't comfortable. And I trust that as you apply curiosity, you will see how that transforms things throughout this month. I'm going to shift directions a little bit, because even though February is the month that CSL is focusing on curiosity as a superpower, it is also considered Black History Month here in the United States. And so in a nutshell, I want to give you a little history on why we call this Black History Month. In 1926, a historian, Carter G. Woodson, and a prominent minister, Jesse Moreland, first celebrated what they called Negro Week. And then their goal was to draw attention to the achievements of Black Americans and to encourage teaching Black history in schools. The students at Kent State first proposed a Black History Month in 1969, and it was first celebrated as Black History Month a year later. Beyond that, and I'm just condensing all this a lot, 1986, Congress passed Public Law 99-244, designating February as National Black History Month. And for many of us, that's been a part of what we experience, what we've known. Some of us probably even remember Kent State and some of the things that happened there. And so all of a sudden, we're seeing in our communities a debate about teaching things like Black history, about how we teach history, why we're teaching history. Do we teach history that makes some people feel uncomfortable? Whose perspective do we teach history from? And so I'm bringing this up because it's February, but also just to see, think, feel within, are your hackles raising in either side of this debate? Because we have people that might believe either way. We should teach it or not teach it. Some books should come off the shelves. No, they need to stay. All this debate that's going on right now. And is there a way that curiosity as a superpower can shift us into a place of peace around even this level of a debate that's going on in our communities? Can you bring into mind questions that you might want to ask of people on either side of this debate? How you could open to having more facts that you could bring into the decision-making process? Is there a way to allow curiosity to lessen judgment that you might be holding in regard to either side of that debate? In other words, can you bring curiosity into your spiritual practice? Because it is part of our spiritual practice when we see it as a way to bring about peace, greater peace within ourselves and greater peace in the world. I think that that level of curiosity can help us to get unstuck when we're in these kinds of situations where it feels like we're stuck with this side or that side. And we can start just by saying, I wonder. Just being open to wonder. And then that curiosity can allow us to open to change in our thinking. And what do we teach here? If you change your thinking, what happens? You change your life. It can change our lives and it can change the lives around us. So once again, I'm going to shift gears a little bit because before I wrap up today, I have some things that I want to ask out of my curiosity that are going to bring it home to this community, this center. Some things I've been curious about. What brought you here in the first place? What brought you through the doors of the Center for Spiritual Living here in Las Cruces? And if you say something, I will repeat it for our Zoom friends and they can chat. And if you get anything in the chat, Ken, let me know.
I'm Amy Fisher.
Uh-huh.
And we moved here approximately 2 years ago.
2? Did you say 2 years? So she moved here 2 years ago. Mm-hmm.
Because we have become very disenchanted with the political system in Arizona.
Okay, so they moved from Arizona, became disenchanted with the political system there. So moved to New Mexico.
No,
Yeah. Okay, cool. So what else? What brought you through the doors, Gretchen?
Art ramble.
The art ramble. The fact that we had art on the walls brought Gretchen through, and then she discovered us. And then the people. Okay. What else, Sergio?
I was at a point in my life where I had realized that the spiritual practices that I had been raised with weren't serving me.
So he's saying the spiritual practices he was raised with were no
So I
longer
wanted to
serving.
go somewhere where I could explore those comfortably.
So he wanted to find a place he could explore his spiritual teachings in a more comfortable way. Yeah. Okay, good. Pat?
I've been in New Thought since the beginning of my life,
Started a new thought at the beginning of her life. Okay.
and I still keep wanting to know more. The curiosity keeps growing.
So her curiosity is still growing. She still wants to learn more. Good. Edie?
I actually came to Las Cruces only because
CSL when I was living in Chile.
So she said she was living in Chile, was looking for a place that had a CSL, discovered Las Cruces had one, and that's why she moved here. Okay, very cool. Anyone else? If you've been coming for a long time, what keeps you coming back? Kathleen. The community. Okay. The hugs. Okay. Karen? The classes and the programs, the messages, and the people most of all. Okay, thank you. So part of what I get curious about, because I often hear when someone finds us for the first time, they're like, oh, I sat in the back and I cried for months. It was just so wonderful. I felt like I'd come home. I felt like I'd found my family. You know, I hear all these wonderful things. And then I notice sometimes people leave. And that's when I also get curious. What took them away? Sometimes people moved, but I want to know what shifted, what changed in their life that they now are leaving. And I've often wished that I could do an exit interview. Back when I was serving at Wellspring, Sam would say, oh, we're just here to be part of their spiritual journey. Don't worry about it. I'm like, but I want to know. I'm curious. Why were they here and loving it and now they've moved on? And so recently I had the opportunity to do what I would call an exit interview. A person that was coming here who I felt comfortable enough because I felt like we had a friendship as well, asked to be removed from the newsletter and had stopped coming. So I said, do you mind if I ask you some questions? And this person was willing to answer those questions. I said, what happened? You know, why was this working for a while and now it's not? And she said that after we started gathering, after we'd been apart with COVID, it felt like the people here were already a tight-knit group, and it was hard to figure out how to break in. It was hard to figure out how to feel like there would be a place that had already felt pretty established. And so that made me start to think. I realized that with COVID, we were in our homes and we missed each other. And when we came back together, so many people were excited about seeing longtime friends that they hadn't seen for a long time. So my question, another question, is how do we enjoy gathering with our long-term friends when we see each other once a week and create a space that's welcoming for new people when they come through the door? Create a space that feels like, wow, there's room for me. And so, interestingly, the way the universe works, because I've been pondering this for a while, as I said, I even talked to Reverend Sam about it years ago, so I've been thinking about this for a while. But recently I have a minister friend who I've started meeting with once a month, and she suggested that I read this book called Community, The Structure of Belonging, there for the Zoom people, by Peter Block. And the first welcome and intro of this book is already pretty well underlined, got me very excited about this idea of how it is we create a community that's welcoming. Whether we're on Zoom, whether we're in person, how do we do that? And so I want to share a few things with you, and this is news to all the board members who are present and practitioners. I'm hoping, I've copied some of this, I'm hoping you'll read it, and I'm hoping that we can have some deeper discussion, but you all are welcome to join the discussion. So, in the very first few sentences, he says, this book is for anyone who wants to be part of creating an organization, neighborhood, city, or country that works for all, and who has the faith and energy to create such a place. Our Global Heart vision says a world that works for everyone. That's what we're creating. And I thought, wow, those words just popped out at me. Further on, he says that if it is true that we are creating this world, then each of us has the power to heal its woundedness. This is not about guilt, it's about accountability. And there's more. Then on the very next page, and this is the Roman numerals. We haven't even gotten to actual page numbers yet. He's talking about belonging and what that feels like. And so my curiosity has been about how do we create a space where people feel like they can belong, where they feel welcome. He said, we are in a community each time we find a place where we belong. The word belong has two meanings. First and foremost, to belong is to be related to and a part of something. It is membership, the experience of being at home in the broadest sense of the phrase. And that's the term many people use. They feel like they've found a home when they come here. At the end of that paragraph, he says, to belong is to know, even in the middle of the night, that I am among friends. What a feeling to be able to be alone, some of us at night, and to just still know that we have a community that we belong to, that we're among friends. So further on, the second meaning of the word belong has to do with being an owner. Something belongs to me. To belong to a community is to act as a creator and co-owner of that community. The work then is to seek in our communities a wider and deeper sense of emotional ownership. And it means fostering among all of a community's citizens a sense of ownership and accountability. So I'm like, wow. And of course, I just keep going with this, and we can't get into it, and that's not what the purpose of this morning is. But I want to say that part of what he teaches here mirrors what we teach in religious science. He says, first of all, we have to shift our focus from the problems in our communities. I'm looking at the bigger community as well. We shift our focus from the problems to the possibilities. And so many people have said that they came here to find community, to find people. It was the people that kept them. It's the ideas and the things that we teach. That like-mindedness is what I hear often too. And so what spoke to me was further on page 48, and here he said, in the individualistic world we live in, we can congregate a large collection of self-actualized people. And so I think sometimes we pride ourselves in what we teach is bringing about self-actualization, right? That's why we come and take the classes and all that. But he says, and still not hold the idea or experience of community. He said the communal possibility rotates to the question, what can we create together? This emerges from the social space we create when we are together. This question of what can we create together is the intersection of possibility and accountability. So I am getting very excited about what I'm learning in here, and so I welcome anyone who wants to read the book, have discussions, possibly even some groups getting together and discussing it as a book study. Whatever works, I am going to keep reading this and bring as much of these ideas as I can because I want to know and I'm curious about how to build a world that works for everyone and what we can create together here in this community. What can we create as we bring ourselves together? And just to add a note of, the vision, the hope, Valerie Carr has this in her book. So picture this. She says, all I can do is hold on to the vision of the world longing to be. A world where every child feels found and every person is beloved. A world where we can look upon any face, even those we might fear, and find recognition. A world where we beckon each other to return to love. This world belongs to all of us, not just to mothers. We all have the ability to participate in this great love story. Imagine the stories we will tell, the institutions we will build, and the lives we will lead when we affirm that every person is a person. Imagine the world we will birth when we see no stranger. That just totally gets me excited. So I hope it gets you excited. And I hope that this idea around the divine urge of curiosity moving in and through us helps you to consider this month. Are you using curiosity as something that could kill the cat, destroy relationships, or are you moving into a place where curiosity is a superpower? It brings you together with other people. It's a saving grace that we have. It's a tool that we can use to help us increase connection, increase healing in the world, and our own personal growth as well. I personally am curious about this. Are you? Let's take a moment and go within, and I invite the practitioners to surround the room. Just take into mind some of these thoughts, these ideas, anything that might have come up. What is Spirit wanting to say in and through you? And consider that question, what can we create, all of us together? As we recognize God as love in our midst, as life, as wholeness, as peace, how is it expressing through us? And what questions are seeking to be asked and answered? And so in the space of curiosity, I also know that with every question comes an answer. That as these questions pop into our mind, that Spirit already has the answer, that it is present in the space around us. And as we open our hearts and minds, those answers also come with the questions. Those answers come as we seek to ask other people those questions. We open to Spirit moving in and through each person that we meet, all the conversations that we have, our willingness to open to new ideas, new ways of being, new ways of expressing in the world, and just wondering about the amazing ways that all of this Spirit is expressing in the world. And so I give thanks for this opportunity to have these questions. I give thanks for being in a tradition that allows me to question. I give thanks for all the ways that questioning has served, has allowed things to evolve, innovations to be made. And I know that in each and every heart here as we come together, questions abound and we see great creativity follow. And so in gratitude for this time together and this opening of our hearts to a deeper question and curiosity, I just release these words into that great law that is moving in and through us as well, as we say together, and so it is. Thank you, practitioners.
We're going to do a song called Love Is My Decision by Daniel Namad. And again, if you know it, please join us.
Love is my decision, up to me to give of my heart. Love is my decision, no one else can tell me to start. And once I decide to change my mind, God will show me how. Love is my decision, right here and now. Love is my decision, up to me to stand on that bridge. Love is my decision, no one else can make me forgive. And once I decide to change my mind, God will show me how. Love is my decision, right here and now. Love is my decision, up to me to dance down that road. Love is my decision, no one else can lift up my load. And once I decide to change my mind, God will show me how. Love is my decision, right here and now. Love decision. Up to me to dance down that road. Love is my decision. No one else can lighten my load. And once I decide to change my mind, God will show me how. Love is my decision, right here and now.
My decision, right here and now.
Thank you to our wonderful singing folks that we have. I love that it's growing and expanding. And just so you know, after the service today, I'll be leading a visioning if you're interested in joining it. This is when we open even more to see what Spirit wants to say to some of these questions. So we might pose some of the things that were brought up, or we'll see what the group wants to do. But if you'd like to stay in vision with me after the service, please let me know. And at this time, we also consider where it is that we're giving back. Anything that comes into the center, 10% in the month of February, is going to the Children's Reading Alliance, which focuses on advancing children's literacy in Doña Ana County. Because it has been proven that reading daily with children and having books in the home leads to success in school, we promote the message, read with a child every day, and support programs designed to place books in the hands of families. The mission of Children's Reading Alliance is to engage families and the community to promote children's literacy. We believe that all families should have access to books and learning experiences that prepare their children for success in school and life. And I'm sure there's ways, if you want to read to children, I know my mother used to volunteer and go into schools and read to children. You can do that as well. But 10% of anything that comes into the center this month will be going to support the Children's Reading Alliance. So let's just say our blessing together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, in me. And we will sing, I am so blessed.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
So thank you all for being here. And I want to remind you that we have practitioners available to pray with you after the service. And for those of you on Zoom, Teresa is available if you'd like to meet with her in the Zoom area. She will pray with you from there. So it's wonderful. We're trying to figure out all of these things and how technology is going to support us. So if you have anything you would like to have prayed with you about, Judy's available after the service. And or even Teresa, I imagine you could come up and talk into the mic, right? Yeah, we can make it work. So let's stand as you are able, and we will sing our closing song, Let There Be Peace on Earth.